If you carry a knife for personal defense, you want to make sure you can use that knife in the broadest possible set of circumstances. A lot of people, when they think about knife fighting, they envision, oh, well, he's got a knife, I've got a knife, and that's the only time my skills apply. That's a very narrow-minded way of looking at things, and it's certainly not the way you should approach any kind of defensive tool. Just like with a firearm, who do you shoot? Anyone who presents themselves as a lethal threat. How they do that, what they're armed with, doesn't really matter. Well, that same logic should apply to the knife. Where that really becomes challenging is when you're looking at using a knife to defend against something that is a really capable weapon, something like a baseball bat, somebody picking up a skateboard or something of that nature, a big two-handed weapon that they can really wield with a lot of force. So what to look at is how to use a knife against that type of threat. And in training, what we want to do is make sure we do that safely. So we're essentially addressing the baseball bat here. What we're going to do is we're going to replace that with a rubber crowbar instead. Still going to have that two-handed grip. It's still going to illustrate the process very well, but we're going to make sure we're training safely. You always want to train safely as well. So speaking of that, training knife here, training crowbar here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use a technique we've actually explored before in some of the other USCCA videos that we've done, which is a shoulder stop technique. Okay, so when we look at the shoulder stop, let's actually take the crowbar out of the equation for a second. Where this really shines, if Eric is throwing a big right hand, big haymaker punch, that's really where this technique comes from. It's one of the quickest and most effective things we can do. Instinctively, what people will try to do is push people away with both hands. If you take that push and you simply turn that 30 degrees so that your right arm lines up with his shoulder, what you get is the ability to use structure to keep him from rotating around the axis of his spine and generating power, okay? We consider this to be an angle one attack. We've looked at this as far as using the knife against angle one attacks with hammers or any other kind of weapon here. Even if he picks up the crowbar and is using two hands, as far as we're concerned, this is still an angle one. It doesn't matter. Again, that's part of the beauty of the MBC system is it takes a lot of the decision making out of it. It keeps that OODA loop very short because you simply look at it and say, what angle is it? Oh, it's an angle one, do angle one stuff. So we look at the shoulder stop. First of all, if he swings with two hands, I can still shut that down very quickly. Even if he swings with juice, I can shut that down very quickly with two hands. So what we do is we take that shoulder stop and we now educate that and amplify it with the knife. Now when I'm using my palm here and I'm stopping him here, first of all, hand position. Let's go back to the empty hand for just a moment. Nope. So you're here. What I'm doing is I'm stopping primarily with my arm on his tricep here, or my right hand on his tricep, and then this is stopping here. One of the things you have to be careful with this when you're training with your partner, if I stop both hands here, this hyperextends his elbow. If he's swinging hard, it's very easy to hyperextend or break the elbow right there. For training safety, I'm making sure that I have one hand high, one hand low. When I put the knife back into that, same exact thing. I'm stopping his swing right here, stops his rotation around his spine, and notice that from where my fist is at with my knife right here, cutting his tricep now is absolutely no problem. So as I step in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to control the arm, I'm going to cut his tricep, pressure cut through that, and I'm also snagging with my left hand to be able to drive this down and away from me. What this also does is it turns him, gives me access to the back of his leg. I can thrust, cut his calf, cut his Achilles tendon, and at that point, he's not getting back up. He can't renew his attack. I can create distance, I can create safety. Let's do-see-do and show from this side. So again, he goes to wind up here. My initial stop, right fist driving into the middle of his tricep. Left hand is stopping close to his forearm for training safety. For actual application, anywhere along here is good. The most important thing is that I'm stopping his upper arm and stopping his body from being able to rotate. From here, as I step forward, grabbing with my left hand, pressure cut down through that tricep. What that does, it takes away the ability of that left arm to be able to extend at the elbow. From the finish of that cut, I now thrust, cut his calf, cut his Achilles tendon, and basically step back. And at that point, create distance, create safety. So if we put all that together, he attacks, shoulder stop, cut. You can see that those pieces come together very quickly. But what it takes is not just the use of the knife. What I really have to do is take the knife and put that in combination with my natural body weapons. I want to have as much stuff going on as possible, especially when you're looking at using a very small weapon against something much larger and much more capable. Again, when it comes to carrying a knife for self-defense, don't think about knife fighting, don't think about dueling. Think about getting the most mileage you can out of this and being able to apply it to the broadest possible set of circumstances.